Good morning. My name is Councillor Emma Parker and I am Chairman of Dorset Council's Licensing Committee, and I would like to welcome everyone to this virtual subcommittee this morning. Can I have a nomination of chair for this meeting, please?
May I propose Councillor Emma Parker?
And I'll second.
Thank you very much. Before we go on to the agenda, I just want to run through some housekeeping. This is a public meeting and it will be streamed live on YouTube. Please mute your microphone and turn your cameras off when you are not speaking, and when you are invited by the chair to speak, then please turn your cameras and your microphones on. There is a chat bar. That chat bar is there purely if you have any technical issues. If you've submitted your right to speak, then obviously you will have your chance when the time is right. The chat bar is not there for people to have general comments in. If you have not been introduced before speaking, then please can you state your name before you speak. Please keep background noise to a minimum, and can you please turn off any mobile alerts that you have on either phones or computers. Thank you. If I can just go through some and what I will do is I will just go around and introduce everybody, get everybody to introduce themselves so we know that we've got everybody in the meeting to speak. So do we have any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor John Andrews this morning.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, do we have any declarations of interest?
No, Chairman.
It's not really a declaration of interest, but it's just occurred to me that I should clarify. My name is Councillor Kate Weller. Our applicant's name is Weller. The Wellers are spelt differently. We have no connection whatsoever, but I wanted those present to be assured of that I have no connection with the applicant, Mr. Weller.
Thank you, Councillor Weller. Do we have any urgent business?
There is
No,
no
Chair, we
urgent
don't.
business.
Okay, and we don't have any exempt business either.
No.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to do some introductions. If I could ask my fellow councillors to introduce themselves, please.
My name's Derek Beer. I'm Councillor for Shaftesbury.
And as I've already said, I'm Councillor Kate Weller, Councillor for Rodwell and Wyke Regis.
Thank you, councillors. And then if I could have our Democratic Service Officer to introduce themselves, please.
Good morning, I'm George Dare. I'm Democratic Service Officer, clerk in the meeting.
Thank you. And then our legal representative.
Good morning, my name's Lara Autry and I'm a solicitor with Dorset Council.
And then if I could have our licensing team leader.
Thank you. My name's Aileen Powell and I'm the author of the report.
Thank you very much. And I will now ask all parties and their representatives in attendance to introduce themselves, and I will start with the list that I have in front of me. So do we have Ben Weller, the applicant?
Good morning, my name's Ben Weller and I'm present.
Oh, Ben, your connection's really bad. I don't know whether it's just me.
No, it was poor.
Let me try moving to a
There
different
you go.
area.
No,
Oh, that's
you're
perfect.
fine now.
Perfect.
We
That's perfect.
can hear you
better?
now. Yeah, that's better. Okay, thank you. I'll obviously come back to you if you want to mute your microphone, turn your camera off, and I will call you very shortly. Okay, and then I've got Gary Siggins.
Yes, hello, I'm here.
Thank you. And I have got Clive and Barbara Mellon.
Yes, we're here.
Thank you. Lara Webster.
Yes, I'm present.
Thank you. And I've got Michael and Tracy Lindsay.
Yes, we're here.
We're here.
Thank you. And I've got Fiona Akins. I don't know if Fiona is with us. No?
Yes, so she's
Yes,
on the
she is.
telephone, I think.
Oh, is she?
She is here. She's very, very faint, Chair.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, just a gentle reminder, but may I remind each person that the subcommittee has read all the papers before them, including all letters of representation, and you are asked not to repeat anything that you have already put in your representation, although you may amplify it. And now if I could, before I go to Elaine for the introduction of the report, I have a query from Elaine.
Yes, sorry to interrupt. I also see that there's a Margaret Carey here.
I don't have
No, sorry, no. Can you hear me? It's Fiona. I'm actually not at my home address. I'm just I've had to I'm doing this from a friend's house.
Okay, all right, thank you. Right, okay. I just didn't want to make sure we've missed anybody out. Thank you.
No, the list that I've read is the
Yeah.
one everybody that's has given their right to speak in the meeting. Thanks, Elaine.
Thank you.
We before I get Elaine to do the introduction, we don't actually have any responsible bodies making any representation on this application this morning. Elaine.
Or Aileen, even.
Aileen. Why did I call you Elaine? Oh, Elaine, Aileen.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarity, the application is now just for the supply of alcohol on and off the premises, Monday to Thursday, 9 o'clock till 6 p.m, Friday and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m, and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Live and recorded music have been removed. There is a complication of the Live Music Act, because if on sales are allowed on a premises license, then the Live Music Act means that you can have live music or recorded music without the necessity for a license. There are 3 outstanding representations, one of which has been submitted by a group of 15 households. One of those households has withdrawn after the reductions were offered by the applicant. The report contained all the correspondence that has been received, whether it is objections or supporting the application. It will be for you as councillors to determine the application based on the evidence that is put before you today and everything that you've already read. The report does contain at Appendix 6 a list of conditions that are consistent with the operating schedule should you decide to grant any form of licence. Thank you.
Thank you, Aileen.
Thank you.
Councillors, do you have any questions for Aileen?
No, thank you, Chair.
No, thanks.
No, the only thing I wanted clarifying was the actual timings, because obviously they have changed a few times from the original application. So thank you for covering that, because that was something I was going to ask to be covered, just so everybody is fully aware of the timings for the potential licence. If I can go to Ben Weller, the applicant, do you have any questions for Aileen at this time, Ben?
No, thank you.
Okay, and if I do this one on block, any of the parties that have made representations, do you have any questions for Aileen with regards to the report?
No, I don't. No. Thank you.
No. That's great. Thank you very much. So I will now go to the applicant, Ben Weller. Ben? Can I ask that everybody make sure that they do have their microphones muted, because I do have quite a bit of background noise. Please. Thank you. It's getting better.
I'll just do a quick sound check to make sure everybody can hear me okay.
Yeah, you broke up a little bit then.
Okay, well, I'll start slowly and we'll see how we get on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Ben, over to you. Is there anything that you would like to add? Anything do you know that you want to put before us?
Yep. So my name's Ben, but as already introduced, I'm the sole proprietor of Twisted Cider, and I am registered with HMRC to produce cider, perry, and made wine at Spring Farm. As you would see in my information, I've been doing this since 2010, and for unfortunate circumstances, the building that I operate in is no longer existing. So I am in the process of rebuilding my business, and the first step I've chosen to do in that is by applying for a new premises license to a new agricultural barn, which is 20% of the floor space. You've just gone through the new revised hours, which has changed from my original application, and those hours I see is what I need as a business to survive, compete and grow. The other change in the license, which was pointed out by Aileen, is the fact the new one is for the sale of alcohol on and off the premises. The reason for the sale of alcohol on the premises is because I would like to do cider tasting as part of enhancing my customer experience and providing them a place to learn the process of cider making from tree through to cider, which is educational and interactive. I plan to be, well, the new application will give me a seating plan of up to 20 people in a conference style seating arrangement, where they'll be able to taste different products, and they will be sold with interactive tasting cards so they can score on colour, carbonation, clarity, aroma, taste, mouthfeel and finish, giving me invaluable feedback as to how to improve my products. And this will be done in a controlled environment, promoting the 4 licensing objectives. Was that, did you catch all that?
Yeah, the only thing I didn't quite catch was when you said about the conference style seating, was that for 10 people or 20?
20.
20. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That was the only bit that I didn't catch on there. Thanks for that, Ben. Councillors, do you have any questions? Councillor Beer.
If I may, Chairman, thank you, Ben. I would assume, obviously you need to put me right, I can't assume, you have to tell me, that if people are tasting and they've come to an event to learn about cider and how you do it and why you do it, to prohibit them to take any away would be a bit daft, I would assume. So they probably want to take a bottle home to show the family what they've done. Is that basically your thinking?
So that will be part of the educational experience, especially with the cider making piece, you're correct. So I would like to encourage people to come and make their own cider, do their own pressing, and at the end of it, get to take a bottle home with them. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So it's not basically like an off license or whatever. It's just people dropping in, sorry, as you were, people coming in, doing the experience and then taking home like they would a piece of coal from a coal mine and such like. Yeah, that type of thing.
No, so there will be walk-ins as well. So at the moment, with my current off-premise license I have, when I'm open to the just have pass and trade that will come in. So they wouldn't have booked onto a course, let's say, but they just want to come in and buy a bottle of cider to take home. So that would be allowed as well.
There were some comments when I was reading through the representations. I'm not sure whether I assumed this correctly, that there was some concern about people parking on the road, but I'm understanding, looking at the plans, you've got plenty of parking spaces. Do you sort of encourage your clients, guests to not park on the road and go into the car park, or is it something out of your control?
It's so the amount of customers I've always had, I've never had any of them park on the road, and the new premises offers a wider parking facilities, so that would not be an issue.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Councillor Weller. Councillor Weller, you're muted.
Sorry, that's the first time I've done that. Ben, thank you very much for your presentation there. Can I just ask you a couple of things, and you probably aren't able to answer this terribly accurately, but you will have done your figures and have some idea from the business in the old barn. What sort of percentage of your income are you reckoning to have as on sales, and what as your off sales? If you've got an idea of that, that would be helpful to me. You've already explained about the parking, and that's good. I just wonder whether, when you were operating before, can you remember receiving phone calls during an event of people complaining that your noise levels were too high, or that there were too many people, or that people were making a noise when they were leaving the premises? If you've got anything that you can tell me on that, that would be helpful. And you speak about hen parties and stag parties, and I understand that. You've got capacity for 20 people sitting down in your sort of conference type room. Would you envisage a maximum of 20 people being at a stag party?
Okay, thanks for your questions. If I take the first one, so the current percentage of my business for off sales is 45%.
Right.
So it's not the biggest part, and that's why I would like to increase it through on sales as well. So if we're talking direct sales to the customer, the other aspect of that percentage at the moment takes up trade and events. Now the trade market is extremely competitive, especially when you're an independent person like myself. And the margins in there, which I can't offer the price margins, let's say, which the larger firms can. So it's extremely difficult to actually make any money. Trade and event, same with events. It's very difficult to get into events, especially well-established ones. So therefore, it's very competitive. And this is why I want to focus on my direct sales to customers and grow that on-trade part of the business, just to help me support myself, my family, and in the future create jobs. I don't have an exact percentage I can give you, but I would like eventually for it to take up to 80% for direct sales of customers.
I understand that.
45, yeah. In terms of my past events, I've never received any complaints from any of the neighbours in Bradford Lane, or had any raised to me, or been notified by the licensing authority of any complaints that have been raised. And then on your last question, the hen and stag parties. So in Longburton itself, there's a wonderful wedding venue, Hall Farm Barn, West Farm Barn, and Stockbridge Farm just round the corner. People who get married in these venues may sometimes rent accommodation to stay for the weekend, and it's creating business opportunities with wedding venues that are in the surrounding areas. So if someone comes down for a weekend, if they want to go and do some cider tasting, something different, then I'll be able to provide that.
Right. Thanks. That's good. Thank you very much. Thanks,
You're
Chairman.
welcome.
Okay, thank you. Aileen, do you have any questions for the applicant, Ben, at this time?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I will go through the list that we have of representations to see if anybody has any questions for the applicant. So I would like to start with Gary Siggins. Gary, do you have any questions for Ben, the applicant?
Thank you. I would like to say that although in this instance I'm representing the ownership of End House, which is the property right next door to Spring Farm and pretty much surrounded by Spring Farm. As to the questions, I would like to ask Ben if he thinks that stag parties and hen parties are normally sedate, controlled events, because the whole impression of stag and hen parties that we all have is that they are much more raucous events than that.
Are you happy to answer that question, Ben?
Yeah, of course. So that's a generalization, isn't it? You're assuming a stag and a hen party are just people that want to go out and be antisocial, which is incorrect. For my friend's last stag party, we went and watched Bath play rugby up at Bath, and then come home. For my wife's cousin, her husband did a bicycle ride down, visit different breweries down in Essex. That generalisation is not true. In my events, we done in a controlled environment. In upholding the 4 licensing objectives. I'm not there to promote antisocial behaviour.
Okay, I do have another question, which is about parking. Jane, I know you say that you haven't had your customers in the current setup and your previous setup with the sales out of the main Spring Farm entrance, that customers don't park on the road. Well, you might not have seen them there, or I don't know if you've had people out checking on the parking, but I know for sure that the entrance to End House has in the past had people parking on it who've been popping in to buy your product. Now, since End House has another entrance, which is right adjacent to your brand new entrance, I'm not convinced that there won't be any disruption to entrances to our property in the future. I don't think you're going to be having people monitoring parking up and down the road, and I suspect you're not going to ask everybody who comes in, have you parked sensibly? It's probably not a question, it's more of a statement, but I don't see how you can control that.
Yep, happy to respond. Firstly, if people have parked on the entrance to End House, then I apologise, because that's not what the business is there to do. The only thing I'd like to highlight is the entrance from the current premises license is moving like 97 metres further down the road and will not be adjacent to the entrance to the property of End House. I understand there is an entrance to the back area of the property of the land next to mine, but the new entrance I've built, again, is double the size of that of the current one, so it's 12 metres in length, and the parking is ample compared to what is currently present. So I don't see why people would park there or in the lane, because it's a single track lane, so it would be rude. And I'll put the correct signage in place so people can see where the parking area is.
I'm not doubting your motives, Ben. I can see that you don't want your customers to cause a nuisance. I'm just saying it's very difficult for you to control that. There has been nuisance in the past, but you're not aware of it. On the same point, the fact that you haven't received complaints is more a testament to the quality of your neighbours. I think that people don't want to fall out with their neighbours, so they don't object. You've only had a few events in the past, and people have gritted their teeth and gone, "Okay, we'll get on with it. We're happy for Ben to carry on his business." What you're talking about now, by having a 365-day-a-year license, changes the way people view it, because we're all frightened that there won't be a mechanism to prevent you causing a great more nuisance.
Okay.
Not a question. I'm gonna step away now from the microphone.
Yeah, I'd say that was more of a statement, even though we are even though we are sympathetic to the parking side of things, we are purely here to discuss the license for this particular part of the premises. I would just like to say, Ben, obviously, you're saying you've had no issues, no complaints in the past. Have neighbours been aware of events that you've had? I mean, are they advertised, or of the sort of events that you've had in the past, so people would be fully aware? And is there any reason why people couldn't approach you with their concerns?
People are always welcome to come and approach me, and I'm a very approachable person, and that's the way I've always viewed my business. The events that are being discussed are largely community events, which are advertised in the Longburton News and Views. So the awareness is there, and then the open day, which is one of the larger events, I also advertise through road signs on the village bell to guide people where to go. So the awareness is there.
And would you consider it to be reasonable if the license was granted, that on these events that you could have an accessible number, so if anybody had any concerns within the vicinity, that they could contact you if they felt as though people were being inconsiderate when they were leaving the premises, or so forth, just so that you had a log, and it would be useful if any complaints that came in, that you could just make a log of those issues that come into you?
Yep, happy to provide my mobile number as a direct line for the neighbouring community to be able to contact me if they have any concerns. Okay,
thank you. Councillor Beer.
Yes, Chairman. May I ask the gentleman who just spoke previously a question? If he has taken any comfort from the fact that this is a new building, it's a stronger building than what was there before? Does he take some comfort from the fact that the building seems to be more geared to what happens, or does he still have concerns? Have his concerns been slightly alleviated by the building of the new premises?
Good question, Councillor Beer. No, I would have said quite the reverse, because what we all knew what we were dealing with before. Where the barn was, although it was right adjacent to End House, sales were out of there. We didn't really weren't interfered with very much. The events that Ben held obviously used the grounds of the farm, and that's where the potential in the past for nuisance, certainly noise nuisance value and music nuisance value came from, but not from people actually buying the product. As for the new barn is itself an interesting thing. I'm glad you raised it, because it, as you must have seen in the submissions, that barn was applied for on the basis that it was agricultural use only, and yet all the neighbours had been were aware that the plan was to operate the Twisted Cider business from it. One of my greatest concerns in granting this licence today is that it risks condoning what I would see as deliberately misleading applications in the planning process. I'm very, very concerned about that, and I know that the other residents up and down Bradford Lane feel the same.
Okay, thank you.
I have Aileen is going to come in with.
You know, I'm going to come in with planning and licensing are completely separate matters.
Yes.
We cannot and we will not use the planning regime to enforce the planning regime. They have planning enforcement for that.
Yes.
Aileen, I thank you for that. When I was at some point, when I realised that was the case from the emails that were exchanged, I did in fact write to the team that was responsible for reviewing the planning application last year, and I asked them to acquaint themselves with the details of this application and make any submissions that they thought were appropriate. Did anybody from the I can't remember the name of the other committee that's involved on that, Aileen, but did anybody make any submissions or contact you about that?
No, planning certainly have not made a representation on this application. They will have been sent it because they get sent it because they are a statutory consultee, but it is for them then to respond to it, and they haven't.
Yeah, unfortunately, well, they didn't respond to you, and neither did they respond to me, which I think is rather disappointing.
You'd have to take that with the planning.
Yes. Thank you. Councillors, do you have any other questions for Mr. Siggins?
No, thank you.
No, thanks, Chairman.
Okay, I will then go on to Clive and Barbara Mellon. Do you have any questions, and I stress questions, for the applicant, Ben? Do we have Clive and Barbara on? Okay, I'll come back at the end. Have we got Lara Webster?
Yes, you have.
Hello.
Hello.
Morning.
Good morning. I was wondering how Ben squares the policy that customers who have driven to the site won't be allowed to buy alcohol on the premises. We've already established it's a rural residential lane. We have no particular bus service. It's very much used in Long Burton, if I'm honest. We're not within walking distance of very many places. I think some of his customers who do come and buy products from him now and attend his events that are held under the TENS license do, through necessity, drive. So the majority of his customers, for whatever purpose, whether they're coming for their education or for buying, will necessarily have to drive. How does he square that license with not permitting people who have driven to buy alcohol to consume on the premises? I mean, he's explained the whole process of the tasting of the products, product improvement, but all those people are going to have driven, and that's a bit of a concern, as I'm sure you can appreciate. And I think also, he's talked a lot about, this is a separate question, talked a lot about the sound dampening of things. Can he kind of, my worry is also that he's put all these things in place. However, the outside area is now concreted and against a steel area, which is actually going to just bounce the sound back rather than absorb any of it. And there is very little to block the noise between there and this. Is there anything else he can do to kind of reduce that impact, given the hard surfaces that the barn and the surrounding areas is necessarily constructed from? Those are my first couple of questions, and there may be more. I probably have another question, but if you could respond to those, that would be helpful, please.
Ben, are you happy to respond?
Yeah. So if I take the first one, so as a company, I mean, I think just having a policy in place, and this is very largely different from any other outlet which I've known, having a company policy in place which states, and there'll be signage appropriate, and I will ask people, and any future staff will be trained to ask people, if they've driven to my premises and they want to consume alcohol on site, they won't be allowed to, because I live in this village as well. I have 3 young children. My parents live on Bradford Lane. My children, they walk, they bike, they scoot down to see their grandparents. So why would I want to put them at risk? So, I want to take this step forward in promoting good practice. Through those two processes, is first by training and getting staff or myself to start off with to ask customers, and secondly by having appropriate signage in place. As for the outside noise, as highlighted on my plan, the outside area is west facing, so away from the residential area. I will also have a noise management plan in place, so I will go and take decimal readings outside when there are parties outside, so I can see whether or not it's above the required limit, which they say is between 70 and 80 decibels. And if it is, then I will personally tell people to be quiet and respect the neighbouring cities. And again, through appropriate signage of asking people just to respect the area they are in. This is a peaceful, quietful area. You're not here to be loud and disrupt that.
Thank you, Ben. Aileen just wants to come in.
Thank you, Chair. Just 2 points. The first is there is no live music or any sort of music on this licence. And the second point is that we cannot put any conditions onto a licence when there is no live or recorded music. And if we did, then the Live Music Act would render them void. So there is no longer this that's being discussed. The other point I would like to make is about the drink driving. The police have been consulted on this. They have not made a representation on this. The responsibility for drink driving does rest actually with the individual who does it. It is them that commits an offence. And I applaud Mr. Weller for actually putting some sort of policy in, because I can say hand on heart that is over and above what any other premises will have. He probably, with the numbers of people that he has on site, 20, he is probably in a very good position to be able to actually monitor who is actually getting out of the car as the driver. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Can I just respond and say, actually, I'm not particularly talking with music particularly carrying. While the barn was being constructed, we could actually hear the voices of the people that were constructing it carry. They weren't shouting, they weren't being particularly loud, but that voice did carry. As you've pointed out, it is a westerly direction. Well, that is upwind from the rest of the lane. So that voice, those noises do carry. And those are things that you can't necessarily control, but they are invasive. As you know, Ben, particularly, I do spend a lot of time in my garden. That is my place I go away from work. So I don't know what can you do to mediate that kind of sound carrying. As I say, we've got the hard surfaces for things to bounce off and not be absorbed. Those sounds will reflect and will carry just because of the nature of those materials. Is there anything else you think you can put in place to mitigate that?
If we are solely talking about the outside area, then the noise made through the construction of the building is it's not down to me. But going forward, if I have customers who want to sit outside, as I've already mentioned, I'll have a noise management policy in place, which we adhere to, and if along with appropriate signage to tell people to be respectful and enjoy the peaceful nature that they're surrounded by.
Okay. I did have one more question. Is about the hours that you work? I think we as a lane we had suggested a more of a compromise that did involve a day off from the business running altogether. It is a rural residential area. If you don't think that you can sustain your business without it having to run 7 days a week, do you think it's actually the right place for that? Because it is primarily a residential rural area, and actually those compromises that we've made still allow a very large margin for you to run your business. If you can't sustain your business with those hours, is it really the right location for it? I would ask.
I'm not really sure that's a question that that would need to be answered. I'm just, you know.
I mean, we've asked about the percentage of income. I think that's only reasonable to say that the percentage of those you've asked. I'm following up with a similar question.
I would say it was down to the individual as to where they would you know, to have their business, you know, whether they feel as though it's sustainable or not. I mean, Ben, if you want to answer,
that's the point we're making, but that is the point I'm making, that actually if it's not sustainable with the hours, then this isn't the right location for it. We live here. This is our home to come home to. This isn't our workplace. We come home away from our workplaces, but to be away from that. If that you know, those hours that we've suggested as a compromise are not sustainable, then this is not the right location for the business.
Ben?
Waiting for a response. So as stated in my earlier piece, the hours which have already been reduced significantly from my original application is what I see needed in order for my business to survive, compete, and grow. I need to have the scope for the business to grow. Yeah, otherwise, you know, there's no point in doing that.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, Lara, for Ben?
I don't think so. No. Probably statements, but possibly not questions as such.
Okay, well, we'll give you a chance at the end to sum up anyway.
Okay, thank you.
So you will get another opportunity to you know, air any concerns that you have. Councillors, do you have any questions for Lara?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your questions, Lara. Appreciate that. I've got Michael and Tracy Lindsay.
Hello, we're here.
Hello.
We're just loading.
Just unmuting. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. I just have a couple of questions I'd like Mr. Clark to address, if that's possible. He has explicitly stated that the new premises licenses he requires is to enhance the customer experience, the same as if you were visiting a winery, brewery, or distillery. However, in several other instances, he's alluded to other events as part of his reason for this license. So far, little has been said on the matter to either ourselves or, I feel, to the committee yet. The risk to granting of this new license is the definite possibility of it being used to support other activities or events, which we've alluded to stag and hen parties, he's mentioned birthday parties, or any other reason for a party. We fear this may develop, that Twisted Cider will become a venue for alcohol-based events, especially if the education aspect of the business fails to be a success. So I would like Ben to answer and maybe give us a little bit more insight into what other events he plans, apart from cider tasting, to hold on his premises and in the adjacent field.
So if I put that down to two parts. So for any life milestone, if it's like your birthday, or if it is a celebration, you know, people getting married or something, or if it's a local business and they want to take their staff out for a day, this is what I am targeting, but it will still be done through a cider tasting experience in a controlled environment. It's not a party. It will follow the same process, and that's what I plan to do, as I've already stated. So I don't know what else I can add to that.
Well, can I just ask, you talk about the capacity of 20 people inside the premises.
Yeah.
seating for 20, but that you say in a statement that that is 50% of the capacity of the premises. Is that correct?
I don't think I said anything about 50%.
Yes, you did. It's stated in one of your. It's in the report.
Yeah, so 50% for outside.
No, it says that there'll be seating inside for 20 people, for up to 50% capacity is what's stated.
Okay.
Also, I'd like to ask.
That's what I've said. That's what I'm aiming to achieve. After all the fixtures and fittings are in, I would like to be able to seat up to 20 people on a conference-style table.
And can you comment on what capacity you have for people sitting outside?
And so this is what I believe, which reports to. I want to aim to have space outside for up to 50% capacity inside. So we're talking. It was marked out on my plan, which I sent in that red square area.
Sorry, Ben, I couldn't hear that. You broke up.
How many outside?
Yeah, so I'd like to, it says 50% of what I can hold inside. So you're talking about 10 people.
So you would never have more than 10 people sitting outside?
I don't envisage it, no. Unless I put on a community event, which I do, then obviously I'll have more people outside, but that would be done through the TENS application process. On a normal daily running of the business, I just don't envisage having that many people on the site. That's like.
Well, I think in my communication with the council, with a representative, he disclosed to me that you'd said that you would have maybe up to 150 people outside for your events.
So yeah, exactly. So for my open day, which is a TENS event, where I put in my temporary events notice, I have had up to 150 people outside over the course of the day. That's correct. But that's not to do. That's a separate event.
But that is using a TENS then. So your intention is to use temporary event notices quite regularly to hold your events.
No. You're mixing words. I didn't say that. I'm still going to continue doing my normal community events, which I've always done.
Okay, I've got Aileen with her hand. I think Aileen wants to come in on the TENS.
I do want to come in on the TENS, Chair. Thank you. This licence that we're considering this morning is literally just for the barn. So that's the only area that's covered by the licence. Consumption of alcohol is not a licensable activity. Therefore, people could go beyond the scope of the licence to consume alcohol. But Ben wouldn't be able to put a bar, for instance, outside of the barn under this particular licence. He is quite correct. You can have temporary event notices. Anybody can have temporary event notices. They can have up to 15 a year. We cannot consider the freedom that people have been given in law for temporary event notices as part of this licence application. It is a fact of life, unfortunately, and it is there.
Can I ask a question? Hi, Ben. I was just, when we chatted once outside, and you were saying that cider drinking is very seasonal and it's generally done in the summer, not the winter. So I'm just wondering that you've asked for hours on a Friday and Saturday till 9:30 at night, which is obviously in the summer when we 9 p.m. at night, when we be enjoying hopefully enjoying our gardens things. Is there any way of reducing those hours to 6 o'clock on a Friday and Saturday, or so that you don't have to have the music and the parties and things going on in the evening when we're trying to enjoy our gardens?
Firstly, I'm not trying to take away your enjoyment in your gardens, and that's why I'm putting the appropriate policies in place to safeguard that. I've already reduced the hours from my original application after reading your objections, and as stated, the reduction I've done and the ones that I presented is what I believe I need to progress going forward as a business.
So that was from 11. You've reduced from 11 on a Friday and Saturday to 9:30. But obviously, 9 o'clock. Sorry. Obviously, that's like when the last person's allowed to have their drink, but they can kind of hang around beyond that, and walk down the lane and make noise and stuff. So that there's no compromise there to be had.
Not in the timings any, but I won't. It's not going to. So say the licensing activities finish at 9 p.m. the actual departure of people will also be done in a controlled manner. I'll do staggered departures, so you don't get disrupted by a crowd of people. No, I don't envisage a crowd of people anyway, but it would be organised and planned appropriately as not to disrupt your way of life.
I think I fully understand that you would try to do that, Ben. We do absolutely understand that. It's just you can't control people, unfortunately. But that's fine. That's fine.
Thank you. Aileen would like to come back in.
Sorry, Chair.
That's
Feel like
good.
a jack in the box. Can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Ben, how often do you envisage at the weekend there being people at your premises, or in general on any week or month?
You stole my question.
Sorry.
That's all good. That was where I was going with it. That is so good.
So in order, as a business, I'd want to see maximum capacity in all, for me to progress going forward. That's probably not going to be the case starting off, because I need to build up that reputation and that customer base and your marketing and what that goes for it. So it's going to take time to get to that stage. But as a business, that's what I would like to achieve.
But with regards to that, Ben, though, would you, did you envisage sort of having, the full maximum there every weekend?
No, I wouldn't. I don't think any business works at 100% capacity. So I don't know what percentage would be there. I can't say that. I've not done it, so I haven't got any figures. This is a new adventure. But it'd probably run it. Say I'd be happy at 80% capacity, but my aim would be 100%.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question on that?
Yes,
as well?
of course you can.
Ben, in the past, it's been no problem because you've really only had 2 major events at Twisted Cider during the year, which the neighbours have fully understood and supported in trying to keep your business going. How do you envisage that changing? How many events do you or would you like to be holding? So say for somebody rings you up on a Thursday and says, I'd like to celebrate my birthday, whatever, at the weekend. There's nothing to stop you being open at the weekend. There's nothing to stop you applying for a temporary event notice, even for a late license. I mean, how do you envisage that working with regard to your business model?
So firstly, if someone phoned me up and said they wanted to celebrate their birthday, I would tell them that, okay, well, we do cider tasting available. I can book you on to a course. You can come and sit down, as I've already mentioned, in a controlled environment. They can have up to 20 guests seated around the table where I will talk them through cider making. They'll be able to taste different ciders, try them, score them, and at the end of it, they would leave in an orderly fashion. So again, as Aileen mentioned earlier, the TENS part doesn't come into this process. I'm still continuing just to do my normal community TENS events.
Okay,
which is several. Yeah.
Thanks, Ben. I've got Aileen.
Sorry, Chair, that's a legacy hand.
Oh, is it? Okay,
Yeah.
no worries. No worries. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Lindsay, do you have any more questions for Ben?
No, I don't have any particular question. I have a question for you, the councillor. I'm just a little bit confused here. That if you grant this licence, the ability for the applicant to hold TENS exists, and yet you're saying it's not a consideration in the application for the actual serving of alcohol licence. Can you just explain why that is the case, please?
I'll get Aileen to come in on that one, please.
Thank you, Chair. The provisions of the Licensing Act are very clear. They're very separate for what is a premises licence and what are temporary event notices. Temporary event notices aren't actually licenses, they are just notifications. So anybody, including yourself, has the right to send us either 15 a year or a lesser number that would only cover 21 days. And that part of the legislation is separate from the requirement to have a premises licence. It is unusual for people with a premises licence to need that many temporary event notices, but there's no mechanism by which you can prevent that happening. So, for instance, we would normally encourage people to apply for a licence for the full extent that they might need it, and then that would then reduce the need for temporary event notices. but we can't insist on it, and we can't say that we've granted you this license, therefore you can't have temporary event notices, because the law says they can. The thing with temporary event notices is that only the environmental health or the police can actually object to them. They would object to them on the basis of a history of complaints of similar events. So there is controls around all of these things, but the control mechanism is by complaint and objection to events that happen under the temporary event notices, not through the premises licence.
Thank you.
Does that clarify that for you?
Yes, it does. That's very good. Thank you very much.
Well, just to clarify as well, Aileen, are you able to say as to how many temporary events notices that have Twisted Cider have had on a general year? Obviously not over the last couple.
I believe it's 3 a year.
3 a year. Okay.
I think that's right, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah, so can you hear me? Yeah. So I normally have an open day. We do a wasp sailing event, and I've done an apple picking day before, and I have done a Christmas market before.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Miss Lindsay, do you have any more questions? And does that clarify with you what Aileen has explained?
Yes.
Yes, it's been very helpful.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're very welcome. Councillors, do you have any questions for Mr. and Mrs. Lindsay?
No, thank you.
No.
Oh, thank you. The points are.
Oh, Councillor Beer seems to have frozen. Are you still there, Councillor Beer? George, is he still with us?
He is still in the meeting,
He
but
is?
he has frozen.
He has frozen. Ah, he's back. Councillor
Yeah,
Beer,
I'm back now. I don't know how much of that you got. I was saying the points I was going to make and the questions I was going to have Aileen dealt with, so I'm clear. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I'll give you the opportunity, Mr. and Mrs. Lindsay, to come back to sum up at the end. Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for your questions. To have Fiona Akins.
Yes.
Hello,
Can you hear
Fiona.
me?
Morning.
Hi.
Yes. Do you have any questions for the applicant, Ben?
Yeah. No, I'd just like to, popular to country. A lot of us do work and bought in a rural location because we like to sit out and everything. And I think for me, we've been to Ben's events. We've no problem with him having the Twisted Cider, running his business. But I just worry because I know Ben is keen to build his business, and it's just like, is this the thin end of the wedge? Where will it stop? You could think, well, cider festivals are quite, popular at the minute. Ben's got a big field there, toilet facilities. Is that going to be the next thing? I don't know what future plans you've got, Ben. I know you've said at the time, perhaps, it's a big learning curve for you, Ben, in the fact that maybe it might have been nice before it ever got to this, that, it had all been discussed with the neighbours, but it's for the future, Is that something you would think about, Ben? I don't know.
Thank you, Fiona. Ben, just before you come in on the reply there, I do have a hand up from Aileen.
Sorry, Chair. I've got a hell of a crackle in my
Yeah, I have too. Can I just make sure everybody's muted that isn't speaking?
Thank you.
That's better.
This licence, as I've said already, only covers the barn. If there was any necessity for any event, or Ben wanted any event outside of the barn, he would have to contact us and he would have to go through the appropriate licensing for that event, for any large event.
No, I think I was referring to going forward with the business, because it's quite popular for people to have festivals and music festivals now. So, and sort of doing the glamping,
It is quite popular. The glamping is would have to be licensed under different legislation to the Licensing Act. We couldn't concern ourselves with that, unfortunately. Events like festivals, they all have to have either premises licenses or temporary event notices for them. So it's not a question of they can just do great big festivals without actually having to come through us for either a separate license or a safety advisory group.
Right. Okay.
Thank you. Are you happy with that, Fiona, or did you want Ben to come back with a response?
Yeah, you know, it's just really knowing what your future plans are, Ben. You know, as you say, you keep wanting to build the business, and you know, I think that's my concern, is how much of the business will you be building? You know.
Yeah. Hi, Fiona. So my business is producing and selling cider. It's not putting on big events. I like doing the small community events, and that's what I'm good at. But you know, I am going to produce and sell cider, and that's why I'm applying for this premises license to hold up to 20 people. That is the future of the business. It's not to put on, you know, big festivals.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ben. Fiona, do you have any further questions?
No, I think all my questions have been covered earlier on by other people.
Okay, thank you. I will go back to see if we have Clive and Barbara Mellon.
Hi, you got us, I think. You here? Can you hear?
Hello?
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah.
Can just hear you. Got a bit of background noise there.
Okay, we've lived up the lane for a long time, and our concern is the chain of events that have got us from where it was, a lovely little cottage industry, something that was we've supported, to the speed at which it has taken place and how it's grown, and where does it stop? On all for self-employed and businesses to grow and in the right place, and there's many places that would suit it better than here. But if it's going to take place there, we have concerns like everybody else. Where will it go? Because the last 12 months it's galloped away since the fire, and sort of taken on a larger project. So once again, yeah, Ben, where will you stop? Because the growth has been very prolific.
Well, so hi, Clive. I'm limited to the size of the premises which I've applied for. You know, that building is a certain size. I've applied for 20% of that building to license, which I would like to host up to 20 people. So you know, that's where it will stop.
But why didn't you have a chat with us all down the lane to say what your future plans were once the fire took place? Because that's why we're all concerned.
Yeah, and early engagement with the immediate local residents is an important lesson which I've learned through this process.
And I'm sure if it's conducted right and there's no disruption and so on and so forth, we'll fully support it. But if there is, we have to go down the whole chain of keep complaining, which we all hate doing.
No, and I've lived peacefully, and sorry, not lived, but I do live in Longburton. But you know, I've worked peacefully with the residents of Bradford Lane for the last decade, and I'm going to continue doing that. I don't want to disrupt people's lives. You know, I have my own life. I know how important it is.
We knew that the noise was what it was every year, and it was quite romantic, the fact that it was taking place down the road, a little cottage industry, and you put up with that noise, whereas you're saying that we should have complained in order to have a bit of weight to stop this growth. Which now we have to go down that road by the sound of it. Every time it steps out of line, we have to, which is a horrible thing to have to do to a small business.
Do you have any further questions?
No, my.
Okay.
The obvious one is the noise and the congestion down the lane, because I don't know whether you've driven down
I have done a site visit, yes. As I do with
when the diversions was going on because of the waterworks, it was horrendous. People pulling in,
yeah,
driveways and so forth.
yeah.
And I can foresee that happening on a busy day.
Well, as we said, we are, you know, we sympathise towards the roads and the country roads and so forth that the business might be on. But today, you know, we are here purely for the license of the 20% of the of the barn. But even though we do take into, you know, consideration the access to it. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. What I will do now, I will go. I will now give all parties the chance to sum up. So this will be your final chance to have your say. Please, obviously, we've heard everything we need. I've got a hand up from Aileen.
Sorry, Chair, you have given all the people who've made representations a chance to ask questions. You haven't actually allowed them a chance to have their little say, which we would normally do if there's anything further that they wish to add. They should really do that before the summing up.
Okay. So does anybody else have anything else that they would like to add before we go into the summing up?
Yes, please. Yes, I would, please.
Okay. If we go to Gary Siggins first, Gary's had his hand up for quite some time.
Yeah,
so
no problem.
If we go to Gary first.
Thanks very much.
Thank
you. I put my hand up a little while ago because I was hoping to get a clarification on something that Aileen said. She talked about the fact that there wouldn't be any necessity to apply for 10s licenses in the future, but she said that there would have to be applications for outdoor events. My understanding of the setup is that once Ben has a license to sell inside his premises, there would then be no way to prevent him having a much larger number of people there who buy their drinks inside and go outside to enjoy the entertainments that there might be, or to enjoy some music, or to just be together. So I'm a bit confused about the numbers that Ben's projecting if he then wants to increase his business to the level that he says he wants to. He wants to have 80% of his sales to be direct to people. Well, he's only going to achieve that by having a lot more people come through his gate. And I imagine a lot of those, when the weather's fine, won't be inside his building until they'll be on the outside. It doesn't look to me as if there's any process here within the granting of the license to restrict the numbers. And that's what many people have said today they're concerned about. And it's what we're all concerned about, because numbers equals more nuisance. Simple as that. But that's something that just occurred to me. The other thing I wanted to make sure that you were aware of is the fact that, obviously, as you've seen, Councillor Parker, if you've been on site, that the barn is actually only about 5 metres away from the boundary of End House's garden, and I'm severely concerned that even with only small numbers counted in tens using the place, the enjoyment of the garden facilities End House for people who ultimately move into it. At the moment, the lady who owns it is in care, but we're trying to sell the house at the moment. And those people obviously were looking forward to buying a house that was in a rural location that had the noises and smells associated with country life, but not living next door to an alcohol venue, and not living next door to something that had the potential to be a musical venue and a noisy venue. Granting of this license won't, whatever Ben says about his intentions, it doesn't prevent him from holding noisier and more heavily populated events. I'm also a bit concerned that if that is the case, that there are more people on site, inevitably on good day, on good weather days, if people are allowed outside, people will bring their children, and children will explore. And I have a severe fear that children exploring, being a bit fed up, sitting around with mum and dad while they're drinking their cider, will go off and explore, and they will find nearby gardens, because there's going to the next door garden will look attractive with trees to climb and a pond to fall into. I'm not looking forward to seeing that happen, and I don't see that there is any preventative measures that Ben could take to stop that happening. The other thing I would like to point out before going is just to remind you all that obviously anybody who makes an application for a license to grow their business is going to try to present things in the most reasonable and the best light for their business. But I come back to the fact that the application for the barn was made with clear falsehoods inside it. And even in the application now, when Ben put forward information to you about how far away he was from people's houses, he grossly over-exaggerated the numbers there. He claimed that he was 150 metres away from the nearest houses, and his barn is nothing like that distance. It's more like 70, 75 metres from Rossiter and from End House. And that's only the houses. That's not from the gardens. It's much, much closer to the gardens. And that's me finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Siggins. Aileen, did you want to come back on the comments that Mr. Siggins made around the outside area?
Yes. As we've already stated, the licence that we're considering today is just for the area within the barn. There could be a condition on the licence to limit the number of people contained within the license footprint, or even on the site. You could do that. Any event that would be classed as a music event would have to come through us by a different route. So this license will not allow that sort of thing to carry on. What it would allow is to have a small amount of music within the footprint of the licensed area. So that would be under the Live Music Act.
I don't know how you would define a small amount of music, Aileen. It seems to me that if he has a premises license, he's allowed to play music for the period that he's licensed.
The Live Music Act allows you to have music on an unlicensed premises between the hours of 8 o'clock in the morning and 2300 at night. That's what the Live Music Act allowed, but it's only on the unlicensed premises.
Okay.
So the unlicensed premises would be limited to the 20% of the barn.
But if there are people outside when the weather's good and Ben wants to grow his business, he's got people down. They come down, they buy their cider, they go outside and sit on the grass, or they sit on tables outside. He could have larger numbers. And someone says, "Do you know what, Ben? Let's leave the doors open or put the speakers over here so that we can enjoy the music outside." I would just wonder whether that's whether there is anything to prevent that happening.
There's lots of controls in place for when these things do actually happen. So obviously Environmental Health have lots of powers under statutory nuisance and stuff like that, and we have, or you have, the power to call a licence in for review at any time, in which case we would look at the actual problem that has occurred and then start tailoring licences to make sure that that problem that has actually occurred doesn't happen again.
Okay, but I think, as Clive Millen pointed out, that means that for all of the residents of the lane, what now begins is a process of having to become nasty neighbours, having to make complaints, having to record events. Okay, I hear what you're saying. Thanks very much.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Licensing Act is a permissive piece of legislation with the controls in place to draw back in those premises that are actually causing a problem. That is the nature of the Act.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Lara had some more questions.
I think this is probably just the opportunity for summing up. I think, is this the point we've got to, Aileen, suggesting we were sort of doing a little bit of a summary and just kind of reiterating key points. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah, just if, I will do a summing up, so you will get the chance to
yeah. I mean, I think this is probably the moment that I will do that. I think, I mean, again, I think I probably reiterated the noise and actually the very little, to block the noise carrying the hard surfaces, etc. I think I'll reiterate again that Ben's policy for not selling alcohol to customers who drive. But you've been to the location, you can't really get there in sensible numbers to sustain his business without those people driving. And that's a concern. To me, that feels as though an off license is sufficient for that to kind of prevent that being an issue. And I think the other thing is just increased numbers and an opportunity of crime. Ben is having to put in place, it may be just it's over and above what he needs to do. But we've never needed CCTV, we've never needed security cameras and those sorts of things. And it feels uncomfortable that if this is the territory that we're going to need to be going down, that he needs to have those things to prevent all these problems. Like we wouldn't need any of these things if that wasn't there. I don't think he's needed those interventions with his current off sales license. So that's a kind of an extension that feels uncomfortable, I think. And I've said before, this is Ben's workplace. Completely get that. This is not personal to Ben at all. This is his workplace. However, this is where we come home away from our workplaces. And I think the tension that has been sort of in place in the last 6 weeks since the application was put up has been, I can't tell you how enormously stressful. I've sort of said in the letter that I had submitted that I do work for the NHS. I've had a pretty horrible year. Many people have. This has actually been more stressful dealing with this than it has to deal with this than it has in work, to be honest. So yeah, that's a big thing for me. My garden is the place I do come to kind of switch off. And the other thing is, I know that the lane and the traffic thing isn't under your remit, but I think Mr. Weller had mentioned previously about actually directing customers from the other end of the lane, and I don't know whether that's presumably nothing that can be put in place with the licensing side of things, but it's something that's a consideration for reducing the amount of traffic that does come past the residential lane at the end, residential end of the lane. Sorry. So I think that is something that I just kind of wanted to sort of throw into the mix as something that perhaps Ben can respond to more fully and perhaps in his summary.
Okay, thank you, Lara. Ben, did you want to come back in on that particular comment now, or do you want to wait until you're summing up? It's entirely up to you.
No, I mean, in the letter which I sent out to the residents on Bradford Lane, I did say I would invest in new signs to divert traffic at particular points before they come into Longburton to make them come through the other side of the lane. And saying when they go out, I'll have a sign directed and saying exit, they go away from the residential area.
Okay.
I'll do that in the letter. Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine. I think that hadn't been submitted in the most recent thing you put forward to the licensing. So just kind of reiterating that was all, that was the case.
Okay. Thanks, Lara.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that's got any comments or questions before I go into summing up? No? No. No? Okay. Right. I will now give all parties the given opportunity to sum up their case, and I will start with the last one, so I'm going to work this backwards. So I am going to start with Fiona Akins. Fiona, have you got anything that you want to add? This will be your final chance to make any comments.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Michael and Tracy Lindsay.
Very quickly, if that's okay.
Yeah, this is your chance to have your last thoughts.
I'm going to cut it right down.
Okay.
Twisted Cider, or Ben has said in that one of his comments has been he's not aiming to be a pub. However, he's asking to serve alcohol every day of the week for at least 7 hours a day, which is equivalent to the opening hours of the local pub. He's also requested later opening hours on Friday and Saturday, and I have yet to be convinced or to be explained properly to me why he needs that and why he needs to be open on a Sunday. The past lack of complaints is down to the limitations of the current licence that Mr. Weller has and how Twisted Cider has conducted their business in the past. No serving of alcohol for consumption on the premises and a couple of events a year have not provided sufficient reason to upset the residents. However, this new application, I believe, has the potential for that to change quite substantially. And I would just implore the committee to consider the matters, such matters when making their decision. If the applicant had asked to continue with his current licence, then it's very likely we would not have needed a hearing at all, and all parties could have proceeded in good faith and lived and worked together in harmony. This process is shown that that is not working out particularly well at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Lara.
Still mute. No, I think actually Mr. Lindsay's summary is kind of pretty much encapsulates all I would say, and probably far more eloquently, but no, that encapsulates it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And then I've got Clive and Barbara Mellon.
Yeah, Mike has summed it up really well. All our concerns are based around that, really.
Okay.
It's no longer going to be a cottage industry. It's no longer going to be an independent company.
Okay, thank you. Gary Siggin.
Nothing more to add. Thank you very much, councillors, for listening to us all today.
Okay, thank you for everybody that's made representations. Appreciate your time this morning and all of your comments. Thank you for joining us. I will now go to Ben, the applicant, for Ben to sum up.
Yeah, hi there. I haven't got much to add. All the information of my business plan and what I want to do going forward has been presented in the documents that have been submitted, and which I believe most of them, well, all the information addresses the concerns of the objections that were put in, and I am and always will be accountable for the licensing activities that I have.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben, and thanks for joining us this morning, and also for your comments. I will now go to Aileen.
Thank you, Chair. I think the only thing I want to say is to remind you this is a small venue. It is a licence in a rural setting. Licences are often applied for the maximum hours that might be needed. That's not necessarily the hours that they will all be in use. That is quite common. The residents have now seen me. They know who I am. If the licence is granted and if there are any problems, they are more than welcome to contact me, and we will deal with them robustly.
Thanks for that, Aileen. Appreciate that. If I can now go to Lara, our legal advisor, just to confirm that we've covered and addressed all relevant points in the hearing today.
Yes, Councillor Parker, I think you covered everything.
Thank you. In which case, the public part of the meeting will conclude. The subcommittee will consider its decision in private with Democratic Service Officer in remote attendance and our legal advisor, who we may call upon for legal guidance should we need it. The decision of the licensing subcommittee shall be communicated to all parties as soon as we have made our decision, and there will also be a written decision come out to you within 5 working days. With regards to the decision we make today, everybody has a right to appeal. You've got 21 days to appeal, and that is to Weymouth Magistrates Court. And I would just like to reiterate as well, as Aileen has said, that any licence that is granted, or anybody that has a licence, should there be any issues, then obviously a licence can be called in. Can I have a vote that we can go into a closed session, please?
So proposed, Chairman.
Agree.
Thank you, councillors, and thank you everybody for joining us this morning. I appreciate your time. Thank you.